Well, I've always been greatly influenced by the work of Lucille Clifton.
Say again?
Lucille Clifton.
Oh, okay.
I always liked her straightforwardness in her work.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like I had to really struggle to get into the work. I loved her sense of storytelling, and I'm basically a storyteller, so I've always gravitated toward her work.
All right. And speaking of storytelling, let's talk about and dwell into Rituals in the Morrow, recipe for a jam session, which is your new CD, your debut CD, that you happen to be executive producer on.
Yes.
That's quite a position, executive producer. How long did it take you to do this CD?
From start to finish, about a year.
Mm-hmm.
About a year. There's that first idea that you get that you would like to do something like that, and then you kind of have to figure out, well, how can you do it? So it took me about a year to figure out, to figure out what I wanted to do, what my theme was going to be, and then I had to find someone who could help me to produce it. That was Michael T.A. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm a poet. I'm not in the music business. So in order to get the recording done, I needed someone who could walk me through all of those steps.
And he was your producer.
And he was my producer.
Yeah. Were the poems on the CD written some time ago, or do you have some that were written in the past, and you have some that were written as you were doing the CD?
All of the poems on the CD were written within the last 5 years.
Okay.
The very last one to be written was Shade of the Cedar Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other newer ones on the CD, newer poems on the CD, was Ballad Mambo. The oldest poem on the CD was Duchess, actually.
Okay. Let's talk about your CD here. We have 12 cuts. One starts off with Foreign Monkey, and it ends with Ritual in the Morrow, recipe for a jam session. Give the audience a little, tell them about a little about the different tracks here, so they'll kind of get an inkling of what to expect. I can tell them from firsthand, it's a great album. Let's start off with Foreign Monkey. How did you put that together?
Foreign Monkey is an interesting poem in that it was inspired by a sculpture by an artist by the name of Daisy Youngblood.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's a sculpture of a mandarin monkey that was half carved out of an oval-shaped stone. So you have half the monkey and the other half of the stone. And I was inspired by this. I took notes on the sculpture, and to me the sculpture represented the birthing of self.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it a step further to make it more the birthing of self and the birthing of sound.
Okay.
It's an interesting concept of how do you're born into the world within sound, and sound itself had to be birthed in some way. And I think the musicians on that track, Christopher Dean Sullivan, Christian McBride, Sako Yasuma, and Joe Giardulo, they did a very good job of encasing me in an egg of sound while the poem is being gone through.
And the second was Ballad Mambo.
Ballad Mambo is interesting, as that was inspired by a musical composition by Warren Smith. And the title of his composition is Marion's Mambo. And when I was listening to it, I was picking up on the mambo sound, even though it's really like a free jazz piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the image of a woman in a wheelchair came to me. he gave a little description of the piece, saying that Marion Brown, who he wrote it for, used to love to dance, but then the person could no longer dance, and they were confined to a wheelchair for a good while. And my mind just took it and the sounds that were being played, and Ballad Mambo is what was the final product of that experience.
Yeah, it's a good experience. Ballad Mambo. Shade of the Cedar Tree.
That was interesting, too. That's inspired by Christian McBride's
right.
big band composition, which is also called Shade of the Cedar Tree. When I heard the piece being played, I was sitting in Iridium Jazz Club here in New York, and Christian McBride and the big band played this piece, and my mind immediately heard a child playing in it, in the music. So that's what I focused on when I wrote the poem, the child growing up, and the shade of this cedar tree being the arms of family and mother and father and, aunts, uncles, helping this child to develop, to grow.
Tangerine Moon.